2.4, other types of equations. First thing we're going to do are problems like this. This is sort of like a little refresher from Algebra 2. I have the absolute value of x plus 4 equals 5x plus 2. What do you know about absolute value equations? Okay, this has to be x plus 4 equals 5x plus
Oh, so I'm right then. Let me say my answer then.
5x plus 2. Or this over here could have been negative, because the absolute value makes everything positive. So I don't know if originally that answer was a negative or if it was a positive. So it's x plus 4 equals negative 5x minus 2. All absolute value problems have two problems to do. You have the positive aspect and you have the negative aspect. To solve this side over here. All right, I'm going to subtract this over and I get 4x. Subtract this over and I get 2. Divide by 4, x is 1/2. Or I do the other side. All right, I'm going to add this over and I get 6x. Subtract this over, I get negative 6. X is negative 1. Those are both of your answers. If you substitute in, they both work. Questions there? This is the same type of problem you did last year. Now I'm going to tie it into what we've been doing this year. I have the absolute value of x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 2. Looking at the absolute value, it means I have two separate problems. Move that up there. It means I have x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 2. Or I have x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals negative 2. What should I do for both problems? Make them equal to 0. If I make it equal to 0, I subtract over x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. You don't change anything on the left-hand side. Now, you have all the tools at your disposal. You can graph, I guess I could have begin with. That takes too long. I can try to factor, quadratic formula, complete the square. Now looking at the factoring, okay, that's easy, x and x. 5 is 1 and 5. This tells me the signs are different. Is there a way to get a 4? X minus 1, x plus 5. My answers are 1 and negative 5. That's the first part. I go over here. I add that over. X squared plus 4x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, I try to factor. Only way I can get a 1 is a 1 and a 1. There's no way I can get a 4. Factoring does not work. So now I need, what's that? I can use a quadratic, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use complete the square just because I can easily. I can divide this by 2. What's 4 divided by 2? And what's 2 squared? 4. So I take x plus 2 squared. Right, that's got to go to the other side. 1 plus 4 because of this. All right, 1 plus 4 is, how do I get rid of a square? X plus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 5. Whenever you take the square root of just a number, it's plus or minus. Subtract 2, x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. And that's your other answer. If you would have did the quadratic, you would have still got this answer once you simplified the radical. Questions on this absolute value? Try this one. I have the absolute value of 3x squared plus 6x minus 1 equals 1. First thing I'm going to do is split it up in my two problems. 3x squared plus 6x minus 1 equals 1. Or I have 3x squared plus 6x minus 1 equals negative 1. Solving this, I'm going to subtract it over. 3x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0. I could do it any way I want. Factoring, let's see, there's really, if I have 1 and 3, 1 and 2, signs have to be different. I need a 6. Can't do it. Okay, completing the square. If I wanted to complete the square, I got to divide everything by 3. But now I got 2/3 here. A lot of people are going to avoid the fractions. That's fine. Complete the square. Negative 6 plus or minus square root. 6 squared minus 4 times a times c. All over 2 times 3. So I get negative 6 plus or minus. That's 36. That's 24. So I get 60. Now I need to simplify my radical. When I think about simplifying my radicals, can I pull out a 4? Can 60 be divided by 4? Yeah. 4 and 15. So negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 15. I can't pull a 2 out of, or a 4 out of a 15. Can't pull a 9, and I can't pull a 16. Divided by 6. And this is where a few people made their mistakes on the quizzes. This right here is negative 1. This right here, 1/3 square root of 15, or square root of 15 over 3. Same thing. That's your first part. Second part. If I add this over, I get 3x squared plus 6x equals 0. I can complete the square. I can use quadratic formula. I'm going to factor this. What I mean by factor, what do they have in common? They both have a 3 and an x. If I pull out a 3x, I'm left with x plus 2 equals 0. Looking here, what makes that 0? What value for x makes that 0? 0. 0 times 3 is 0. What value right here makes that 0? Negative 2. So my answers are this or this. Now I have 5 plus. Now, when I type in and I can't get that radical bar, the square root bar to go all the way over. So I put it in parentheses. It's 5 plus the square root of 3x minus 11 equals x. For solving this one, what's the main issue in this problem? Square root. How do I get rid of a square root? Square it. But in order to square it, that has to be the only thing on that side. So I got to move this 5. Square root 3x minus 11 equals x minus 5. I move it over. Now I have the square root of something equals something. Now I can take and square both sides. So I have 3x minus 11 equals. Now I have x minus 5 squared, which means, if you remember from Algebra 2 and Algebra 1, this is the perfect square. There's a shortcut method, so I don't have to take x minus 5 times x minus 5. X squared. Then I take 2 times x times negative 5. Negative 10x. And negative 5 squared is 25. It's the same thing as doing the FOIL. It's the shortcut method for when you have a perfect square. It's just this times this and then double it. Okay, once I got the square root gone, what do you think you want to do? Well, put everything to one side. So that's how I'm combining like terms. I need to subtract this over. So I have x squared. I subtract it over. I get negative 13x. I add this over, I get 36. I cut out the minus part. I didn't feel it was necessary to write all the time. All right. I can use any method I want to try to solve this. I'm going to just look at factoring. This tells me the signs are the same. So I need to put them together and get a 13. The factors of 36. Can I get a 13? 9 and 4. So x minus 9, x minus 4, it can be factored. When I take 4 times 9, I get 36, and a negative 4 and a negative 9, it's a negative 13. My solutions are 9 and 4. Why is there only 2 answers? It's not an absolute value. Now, there is one thing I forgot to tell you about the absolute value problem. You need to check your answers. You need to substitute. Now,
You can substitute a radical back into the problem.
no, you substitute this down here. What you can do is put this in the calculator. Double check. You remember from section 1, you saw the graphs and you see where they intersect at? Just look. Do those numbers match up? So if I went back to this one, math number absolute value 3x squared plus 6x minus 1. That's your first one. The second one's 1. How many intersection points do you see there?
1.
I'll zoom in. One, two, three, 4. How many answers did I get? They're good. I'm not even going to check them because I know they're going to work. If it went through and it only hit 3 times, you got to figure out which one doesn't work. And it's just looking, okay, what number is not on there? Okay, so if you figure out what that radical means, all you would do, if I wanted to figure out what that radical is, -1 plus 1/3 times square root of 5. I know to look for that decimal. I know to look for about -1/4. Or 15, sorry. I can't type. So I know I look for about 1/4. Let's try this one. I want to see if you can do this one.
You just said let's try this one. We're going together.
Okay, let's try it, meaning, how about you try this one? First thing I'm going to do, subtract the 1 over. Square root 4x plus 33
Come on, mister.
equals 2x minus 1. Now, I'm going to square it. So when I square this, 4x plus 33 equals 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. You can use FOIL, or you can remember the shortcut method. That squared that squared that. 2 times these 2 gets me that. Move everything over. Yeah, you get 2 negative 2's, which is a -4. 4x squared negative 8x minus 32 equals 0. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the square, because I can divide everything by 4 nicely. X squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Okay, -2, cut it in half. -1 squared is 1. So it's x minus 1 squared. Move that over. It's 8. I add my 1 and I get 9. Take the square root. X x minus 1 equals plus or minus 3. Add over 1. 1 plus or minus 3. So 4 and negative 2 are my answers. Questions?